Let's move on to this now. Nehawu members are protesting at the union buildings. They are unhappy with President Cyril Ramaphosa. They say he hasn't responded to their memorandum of demands, which was submitted on the 3rd of September. Among the grievances is that members are being denied salary increases and bonuses. Let's take you live now to eNCA's Nqobile Madlala, who is following that story. Nqobile, this is a bone of contention, the issue around the increases. They were supposed to have been effected from the 1st of April. Have the members of Nehawu been able to submit their demands, and what are they saying about what it is that they are demanding?
Well, we are about to find out more from the First Deputy of Nehawu, but tell us, we have seen them protest in the national laboratories. We remember that we have seen the same conversation has been ongoing, and also the fact that this is not just starting now, that these guys had gone on the streets and they said they had gone to hospitals to look at the sort of conditions that their health workers were working in. So it's something that's very open. As to why it has not been answered, we are about to find out. Ndate Mike, please explain to us, why is it that you haven't gotten your answers yet?
Well, only the authorities will know why we've not got our answer. All we know is that in terms of the rules of engagement in this country, when sections of our society protest and they give the deadline, they expect to be responded to. They don't necessarily have to be responded to into their liking, but at least to show the respect that they deserve. So we are here today as a National Executive Committee of the Union on behalf of all the members of Nehawu that marched on the 3rd of September across the country and gave memorandums to various premiers. And sadly, some premiers have actually responded, but unfortunately, regrettable, the president have not responded. We had given them the 7 days that expired on the 10th of September. We have written to them on the 11th. They only acknowledged receipt. So we are here as the leadership in between our meetings to say we're going to be here. We want to say to the president, you're not going to do this thing. You're not going to set a precedence in this country that you can ignore the cries of workers and those who protest against you. You surely have to lead by example, because we have got vulnerable workers across the sectors here that once this precedence is allowed to proceed, then we're in for a chaos in this country.
I understand that you say you have ticked all the boxes in terms of communication. Can you just remind us what is it exactly that Nehawu is looking for in terms of the demands?
Look, when we started in April, culminating into July, as you correctly said, that we went to the hospitals to check the compliance in terms of occupational health and safety, in particular the protection of the workers that were the soldiers that the nation depends upon to defeat COVID-19, many of whom have actually lost their lives. We came back and met a number of ministers and outlined our findings and demanded the improvement of the working condition. But you know that we also demanded the compensation of those workers that when the country was instructed to go and lock ourselves behind our doors because there was danger out there during lockdown, these workers were sent out there not because they did not fear COVID, not because they knew better than the rest of us, but because they are the soldiers that are supposed to defend the nation. But many of them are dying in their workplaces. So we're demanding that they must be compensated, because many of them, they've lost their employment or their life. But that more importantly, we have got a government that has reneged from a signed agreement that was signed in 2018. That was implemented in 2018 and 2019. This year in 2020, when it's supposed to be the final leg of the implementation, government is challenging the constitutionality of that agreement. We are saying you can't do that. You can't have a democratic state setting a precedence that is correct for an employer to renege from a signed agreement. A 3-year agreement that workers did not want in the first place. You know that workers always want a 1-year agreement. But the employer pleaded poverty and said they want to be given a breathing space in order for them to budget up until 2020. Now this is what they are doing. So we're coming here and saying the president is not going to have peace. So for as long as we breathe as Nehawu, he's not going to sleep well. We want our answers. We want our demands to be responded. You can't not demand. Even the apartheid government could not ignore a memorandum.
It seems like it's a long-standing conversation, obviously, but if this conversation, if the president does not reply or you don't get any form of reply from that side, what are you going to do?
Well, each phase of a struggle is going to determine the course of action we're going to take. But I can tell you now that remember when we said we were giving the government 10 days, we were actually preparing for a full-blown strike by all public servant workers. We are now in the meeting here as a National Executive Committee to make the determination of the date. But if you watch us across the country today, all our branches of the union since last week, they are picketing every lunch hour and mobilizing for the day when we're going to pronounce that we're going on a full-blown strike. So that's the course of action that we're going to do, because You don't get paid, you don't work. You don't get protected, you've got a right to refuse to touch dangerous work. That's the laws of this country. So that's what we're going to do as members of Nehawu.
Thank you very much, sir. Well, as you can hear there, Tulas, there seems to be a plan that they are going to be talking about today with regards to what is the way forward should they not receive their answer. But of course, they are hoping that they receive that answer first.
Yeah. Nqobile Madlala live for us there at the Union Buildings. Thank you for that update. Nehawu insisting that government actually does have the money. This was an agreement reached some 3 years ago. This is supposed to be the third leg of those salary increases before a fresh round of negotiations takes place in the public sector. But that has not been effected, as you'll know, in the last few months. Hence that strike, that protest that is taking place there to the Union Buildings.